I have shared that one of the themes of my real side experiences of late has been in regards to heightened survivability, specifically in regards to the physical level and our physical level body forms. The process of awareness entails a facing and releasing of the entirety of our consciousness construct, a consciousness we have built over the lifetimes since we initially entered the simulator, comprising of all the idea agreements and attachments that it does. For as the secondary personal self is established, so then is the disconnect from our indifferent to creation real awareness standing, where up until this point we would be having our experiences effected from a consciousness, but we would be standing in real awareness detachment from them. But now, as the secondary self comes to the fore, as we free will activate the idea creating body vehicle mechanics, assuming then this secondary fabricated position, as we maintain the personal self-immersed position and become lost within the unreality of our creations, so we embrace the consciousness we have constructed, all the ideas it comprises of, every idea agreement that affected every experience throughout all our lifetimes we now cling to, that we are retained as the unconscious effect of the consciousness in its entirety. Every idea will present as restriction, in that we are cause and effect limiting ourselves to a creation, but additionally will the agreements present as limitations in regards to our environments and other individuals. For indeed, anything that my body forms cannot do is based on agreement ideas that limit my forms accordingly. Anything that other beings can do to my body forms adversely is again based on agreements I have in relation to them that they can, by whatever means these agreements were secured. The more compaction of a consciousness clung to, the greater must be my array of limitations in regards to my environments and the extent and volume of other beings who can detrimentally impact my experience and body forms. Naturally then, as I begin to release these agreements, these limitations, through the process of awareness, the facing and relinquishing of the created consciousness, I become increasingly indomitable. For the less ideas I hold to, the less I am the effects of anything, until eventually, with not one single idea held to, I can walk through a creation completely unmolested by others, or in any way impacted by the environments I enter, unless I consciously decide to be. This then is always my experience on the real side, that I am progressively able to deal with all adversity through the releasing of agreements which render my body forms progressively untouchable. The physical level, however, is another matter, that although the moment we release idea agreements, we are instantly in positions of less limitation consequently, as revealed on the real side, where everything is its immediate effects, due to the design of a consciousness, where there is a delay factor between a cause to effect, or in the case of agreement releasing, the ideas being relinquished, and the limitations they imposed removed, then even though we become instantaneously liberated from a restriction on the real side, the effects featuring on the physical level will take the moments they will, but assuredly we will become on the physical and through our physical operating body forms just as we are on the real side, somewhat untouchable and unlimited. It's just that we still are experiencing the effects of a consciousness immersion position that we previously held to, that presents as a body form restriction according to our consciousness design, as our effects take a while to physical level manifest, as I said, but a point will come where the releasing of consciousness idea restriction process begins to become so on the physical, and I have shared a number of real side experiences which reveal the actuality of this and the various situations that can come from it. Ultimately, such limitlessness, as it becomes so on the physical level, is as an aid to survival, but lies the possibility of becoming over enthralled with the abilities we then can access and utilize. For everything we experience in creation, including the abilities we can muster through the awareness process, as we release the limitations of the consciousness, would still be as ideas, and all too easy is it for individuals to become absorbed into the ideas that are our unlimited capabilities, and we can lose focus and intent with the years, and effectively mire ourselves in creation and the personal self, just as we might with the attachment with any other simulated, created idea. We endeavour then to maintain indifference always to creation and its phenomena, but with nothing being negated, we utilise that which makes sense, and as we naturally unlock our unlimited true natures, as I said, this would be an aid to survival, as our indomitability processes from the real side to the physical level. This real side experience would be a similar situation and view pertaining to what may become a physical level possibility, for through the releasing of a limitation as expressed through a consciousness progressively being released, so I would be shown then the likelihood of my being able to completely manipulate my immediate environment as I saw fit, not only on the real side, but the physical also. For it is my consciousness that affects and presents my environments and my limitations in association with them. Remove all agreement idea attachments, and I am in a position to manipulate my environment as I decide. I would be in the presence of my mother, and as though impressing upon her this potentiality of survivability, for she is an individual who remains somewhat on the fence in regards to the years. She is receptive to the references pertaining to it, but has as yet to commit and place an intent with the recognizing of the true reality. As such, I will occasionally be presenting her with certain experiences on the real side that perchance may prove as the catalyst to spark her into the embracing of the real purpose of his recognition. As I said, the environment I was in where she also was featuring, so would it be subject to my imagination in such a way that that which it was, a setting in a random city area, would become as a painting might if you doused it with hot water. The colours that the scene comprised of would run and blend, and the scene now would be as a mixture of a colour, but lacking features of any kind that had previously been present. And now, through my imagination, would the colour reformat and become an altogether different scene, and repeatedly I would dissolve each scene into its base colours, and recreate them into something new. The impressions were also that this reformatting of the very scenes I was in could be applied to the situations of others. In my case, I was releasing all agreements which rendered my ability to alter my environment as I chose, real side and eventually the physical level, but in regards to others, if they extended agreement to me, as I can't impact the experiences of others, absent of their agreements to permit me, as we each are the deciders of our experiential situations, that I could then additionally make alterations to their consciousness, to reformat their affected experiences also to ones more advantageous for their survival, etc. For I have encountered many beings who have the ability to alter consciousnesses of others, where they have the agreements afforded them that they can, and here it seems the unlimited natures of our true being, real awareness selves, would include this ability, not only on the real side, as I have experienced my beneficially altering the consciousnesses of others before, but to eventually filter through as a physical level and body form ability also. Interestingly, as I dissolved a scene into its base colours, I would at one point create body forms. They would emerge from the soup of colours we were operating in, take shape, and as the scene would be reformatted, so would the body forms be present, and I would remark to my mother that they had a life of their own, for they were effectively alternative body types that I or any other individual could assume, and the body types as effected from consciousness as conscious creations. So in isolation of the real awareness connection, even though real awareness animates through all forms in reality, so they would be as though thinking they were real, just as any disconnected from real awareness creation will. And these forms were as though extensions of myself, though denied real awareness connection at this moment, until I would decide to operate through them, a method of assuming alternative body types. Then would the real awareness be reconnected, and they would be, as I said, effectively a completely different body type I could animate on the physical through. That just like my ability to alter the environment any way I saw fit, so also could I potentially assume any alternative form I then created. Again, as a means of survival, perhaps the assumption of forms more robust, more resilient, etc., but I would amuse myself by formulating two-legged walking wolf forms and so forth. In regards to survival in the face of adversity, so at that moment randomly would a family member elect to attack me. The individual one who was a personal self-consciousness immersed, and the scene I currently had formulated would dissolve once more into a sea of colours and present as a repelling mechanism, as though the colours came alive and combated him, for he effectively had his abrasiveness reflected, as all ideas are the instant effects of themselves, abrasiveness met in equal measure and expressing in this particular way as his attacking efforts being nullified. As I said, overall, the potentiality again hinted at in regards to heightened survivability, not just real side, but that which will invariably manifest eventually on the physical, as we hold to our real intent of is recognition, which involves a releasing of the ideas of the consciousness, which expresses as increasing indomitability multi-dimensionally, that we can become able to have complete manipulative ability where our experiences are concerned, including the physical level, but where, as I mentioned, we must endeavour to not lose a focus with the real purpose of is recognition and become emotionally captivated by the phenomena in the simulators as created by others or by ourselves. In the following scene, I would be in the back seat of a vehicle. Beside me would be Jeremy, Duane at the wheel, with Val sat next to him. Symbolically, Duane as the driver was then the creator of the idea, the objective, that the vehicle we were in represented. That we were present in the car revealed our agreement with the idea. An idea which, as it transpired, was an assignment by which we would be transported back through time to various earlier eras of humanity's timeline. That although the consciousness affects body forms, in which ideas are processed from cause to effect, where that which is decided is not immediately manifested, and so we have illusory timelines effectively, where from the personal perspective we can identify ideas we have experienced, retained in memory, as the past. The ideas are currently being experienced as the present, and those are yet to be experienced as the future. Every idea in a consciousness, regardless of its processing position via the body-vehicle mechanics, is a present in the nowness of the real awareness isness reality, and the real awareness then can place its simulated body forms into any so-called era of any species and civilization, past, present, or future, and where possible then is it to make alterations to the ideas of the so-called past that ripple through to the so-called present, and altogether different effected simulation be the result. That from the personal perspective we are in positions to change the past and thus the present or future. In reality, we are simply reordering ideas within a consciousness that reconstitutes the overall simulation effected. But as I said, from a literal perspective, Duane, Val, Jeremy and I were travelling through time to prior eras of human experience. We had the real awareness oversight of the entire human movie. We were selecting a certain part of it to access, with the intention of effecting alteration, and so would the overall human movie alter in accordance. In reality, we can't change anything in regards to the experience of other individuals or species, such as the human race, as we each are individually and species collectively the deciders of our own effected simulation. It's a case then of affording alternative options that through the alternative agreement we glean, alternative to that which had been, that had the affected situations as they currently are, so as we enter prior human time periods, as we manage to encourage these alternative agreements, so what is effected is an altogether different human movie. For we were seemingly isolating particular humans that were especially influential, in that they could steer overall human agreement on a vast scale through the prominent positions they occupied. Individuals that were not in any way dark force affiliated, but operating in certain time periods where they had the ear of the masses, so to speak. We were simply promoting the true reality, although we're not presenting references that the consciousness of humanity in the prior periods we were entering would be unable to grasp. Instead, we were more so placing hints with these prominent human characters along the lines of the natural environment that, despite lacking the next step directly referencing the all-is, etc., nevertheless, we were installing the notion of the environment that supports all life. That as such an idea is embraced and is more so circulated at specific humanity prior time eras through these prominently placed key individuals, so what would ripple through as a change to overall human consciousness to the current moment would be a greater acceptance of the all-is that can be referenced through the natural environments as that which the true reality animates through. For only now is human consciousness in any position to begin to grasp the idea of the all-is. Even in Paul Twitchell's day, such a reference would be beyond the grasp of the literal masses, and so to plant the references we use currently, such as the sun shining, the natural environments, the birds, etc., into the human consciousness at an earlier moment along its timeline, literally speaking, so what will ripple through, if embraced, will be a greater acceptance of the all-is in the current moment, as though we had removed a few idea blocks in human consciousness to afford overall greater acceptance of the reality of the is. This is again rather a common theme of late in my recent real side experiences, that of altering the ideas of consciousness, the past, to effect as beneficially impacting of the present, and here Duane would be taking the lead in this endeavour as we promoted the true reality through a referencing of the natural environment. Interestingly, throughout our endeavours, we were wearing wetsuits, those that Duane adorns when he takes his swims in the ocean on the physical. The idea seemed to be that these wetsuits were those associated with the Mexican ranch, but specifically the real side ranch counterpart. Whereas I have shared on previous real side experiences, is now a position much like the real side universities that serves as continued support and sharing for all on their awareness processes. The universities and real side ranch are also bases of operation where assignments are launched from, and this would be the case here, where from the real side ranch, had we embarked on our prior time periods of Earth and humanity escapades, impressions revealed that the wetsuits then afforded a kind of tether to the real side ranch, as though this particular prior time period accessing operation had a degree of risk to it, where potentially we could become as though lost in the illusions of ideas of the past. I'm reminded of the movie What Dreams May Come, where Robin Williams would seek his wife, who had positioned herself in a hellish realm on transition, but where he had to remain indifferent to her abysmal environmental creation, lest he become absorbed into it also and trapped there himself. This seemed a similar situation, where there was a danger that certain ideas of the past human eras we were to enter may present as alluring to the group in some shape or form, that should we latch onto them and embrace them, we could be retained as their effects. We could be trapped effectively in the past, and very possibly unable to return to what is our present and current human era positions. We may not even wake up on the physical on the Mexican ranch in 2023, but in these alternative, past idea affected eras instead. That complete indifference to the past human era simulated situations was the effective means of our not becoming mired there, but as an additional precaution we had the wetsuits, which linked us to the real side ranch, reminding me a little of the tether connecting us to our physical bodies when we astral project, that allows that we can always return to them, etc. Duane would remind us also of the importance of wearing the footwear that goes with the wetsuits, the sea booties, as though representing a grounding, the notion of keeping our feet on the ground, that our actions here would have a physical level ramifications. For as I said, overall, we were altering the past to beneficially change the present, or what would be the future from the perspective of the positions we were operating in, as though to emphasize the idea that we were entering past human time eras, to impress this notion on my personal self that it fully grasped what we were doing on waking, so every scene would be presented as the movies once were, in black and white. Although, as we began to effectively instill our all-natural environment references, as they were accepted and circulated, as they became ingrained in the human consciousness of the past, so the black and white scenes we were in would begin to transition to colour. I'm reminded of a movie, Pleasantville, where the consciousness of the individuals were so routined and conformity-orientated that affected were their reality as black and white, but where the consciousness began to break down to become more free-flowing and fluid and less rigid, so the world they operated within would gradually transition to colour. This was a similar representation here, that as we gleaned agreement, as the human consciousness were receptive to our references, so affected was their environments from black and white, literal rigidity and one-dimensional polarity of consideration, to a more free-flowing, intuitive expression of being, the black and white giving way to colour, and rippling through to the current moment of 2023, now would be an overall human consciousness, more apt to embrace the idea of the true reality, a shift in human consciousness that would very likely have now far more humans deciding to take the next step, that of embracing their processes of ears recognition. And the experience would end there. We had been successful in our human consciousness alteration endeavours, really through agreement on behalf of humanity that this would be so, and now would safely remove ourselves from the various past human era time periods.